Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper, and today I'll be doing my top 5 echoes I would like to see in the Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Now, as of time of recording, um, we did get our most a recent Nintendo Direct, and one of the last things we saw was one of the things we saw in the Direct was um, the Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and what we saw was that Zelda could duplicate stuff, so things from like water to beds to tables, that sort of thing. And I think with things that we saw and the possibilities of what could be in the game, I think there's 100 possibilities of what other kinds of echoes that could be seen or we could do possibly in the game. So yeah, to start off with, for number 5 are the main dungeon bosses. Now, hopefully, if I think there will definitely hopefully be dungeons in the game, and I think these will be slightly different to dungeons we've seen in previous Zelda games because they were more actiony based puzzles because we were mainly using Link, and he's more used to like he's more well known to using stuff like bombs, arrows, the Master Sword, and various other stuff that might use various items to solve the puzzles. But with Zelda, she's more using the echoes, and those echoes could help with different puzzles. And when it comes to the bosses themselves, there is a possibility that we could use an echo of the boss because it is shown that we can use echoes of enemies, and it has been shown in the trailer. And there is a hopefully there's a possibility we could use the bosses as echoes as well. Maybe a smaller version of the boss, maybe because I think a larger version of them, depending on how large the bosses are, like because normally bosses in a Zelda game are larger than the character themselves. So if we do get a boss, it might be the same size of the character, just so the game doesn't get too overpowered with them. So like maybe just a small version of the bosses, then they do less damage to the boss than the boss that you fought in the dungeon. So that'd be something quite cool to see. And this also brings me to my number 4 spot, that being mini bosses. And the mini bosses could be something similar with the main dungeon bosses. So you could have any kind of mini boss that we see in the dungeons, and we could and it could go to a similar way in the sense that once we defeat them, we can use them as an echo and use them for a variety of puzzles or fighting off against other bosses maybe. But again, it'll probably be they'll do less damage because if they did the same amount of damage as the main mini bosses, then the game might become broken at that point. So yeah, for number 3 are the different traps that can be seen throughout the dungeons. Now, I think traps in a Zelda dungeon are an interesting thing to have because you have a variety of things to do, and when it comes to the traps, so like there might be one in which the floor turns into or it sort of like goes away if I'm on your step, or the ice might be slippery and it might crack and you might fall further down into the dungeon, and a variety of other traps and stuff you can see in various dungeons. So I think when it comes to the traps, it'll be for something. I think they'll be used more for strategic stuff. So like against certain enemies, maybe to draw a path, maybe, or something like that. But I feel like the traps will be an interesting way of playing through the game as you see them as an echo. So yeah, for number 2 are the dungeon chests. Now, if we do use the chests, or not only from the dungeons, but maybe ones from we see across the world, I think they could be useful because you could let's say this particular dungeon, let's say towards the end of the game, and there's only enough chests to open that have dungeon keys to open, let's say all but two or three of the final doors, with one of them being the boss room key, and you could duplicate a dungeon chest to get the dungeon key, the last two or three dungeon keys that you need to open the way and get to the boss room. And this could and you could also like change the chests, so it could be one could be a rupee chest, and that could be random, so you could get a green rupee, red rupee, a silver rupee, purple rupee, or gold rupee, and the other one could be a chest. And the chest, I would say, mainly a door chest, so never a boss room chest. The boss room chest is always the last chest you might get in a dungeon. So yeah, so if that is an echo that can be used, it'll be something quite cool to see. So yeah. And for number one is Link. Now, I'm seeing this mainly from the perspective of a hero mode, in that from the trailer that we've seen, Link is gone. We don't know what's happened to him. We don't know what those rifts are. But I'm thinking, as a possibility, once we've beaten Echoes of Wisdom, there will be a potential for a hero mode, because a lot of Zelda games, well, mainly the more modern ones, and even the Ocarina of Time 3D remake got a hero mode. The only two Zelda games that don't have one, or the only two 3D ones that don't have one, is Majora's Mask and Tears of the Kingdom. And with hero mode, this could be a way in which we could get Link as an echo. So it could go something like, oh, it is the same story, but we can now use Link to help fight enemies for us, similar to how we can use the moblins that we saw in the trailer that could fight for us. And I think with Link as an echo, we could, similar to how my thinking of how when it comes to the dungeon chests, when it comes to the rupees, it could be random. It could be something similar with Link, in that you could either have him in his classic sword and shield, but also he could be random to have his bow and arrow, his boomerang, his hook shot, maybe his bombs, or any of the other use of items that he can use in the other Zelda games. So that'd be something interesting to see, and I feel like, again, similar to the bosses and the mini bosses that we could potentially use, if that's a possibility, Link probably won't do as much damage as, like the proper Link, because this Link is an echo. It probably won't do as much damage. So, because again, it'll make the game too OP, and it'll make you basically too OP, and enemies won't be much of a threat to you. So, having this echo version of Link use only about don't deal as much damage as the Link we've seen in the variety of other Zelda games, even in the one we've seen in the Echoes of Wisdom. The Echo one won't do as much damage. So yeah, so that's been my top 5 Echoes I would like to see in Echoes of Wisdom. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.